All right. Well, it looks like we're, close to 15, 16 folks here.
Yeah, I'm happy to kick us off and let people trickle in as they do. Um, Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the September, good Lord, it's already September, Enterprise User Group meeting. Today, we're joined by Zac Garcia, one of the product managers from Zendesk, who's going to be talking about Agent Home. Um, and what's going on with that, what's going to happen with it in the future, and then we're going to have plenty of time for Q&A today. So I will be your um, moderator, so to speak. So feel free to post any questions you have at any point through today's session in the chat, or feel free towards the end. Feel free to come off of mute and ask your question live. So Zac, feel free to take it away.
Fantastic. Well, yeah, thank you, Nicholas. And thanks everybody for having me today. It's an honor to get in front of you and just really get to share what's happening, get your direct feedback. You folks are why I do what I do. I was a Zendesk customer for several years before joining Zendesk. And so I feel a lot of kinship and definitely desire to make good on what the promise of Zendesk is and what it can be for our organizations. And that's part of why I'm so passionate about the work that we're doing in Agent Home. And I really see that as an opportunity to modernize the way that work management is done at Zendesk. We have and always have had a really strong presence in email and ticket management. And as we move beyond that into more and more real-time capabilities with the rich integrations of agent workspace and messaging and what you've started to see from us through AI, we really want to modernize that and bring it into uh, a world where it's easier to multitask. The work is shown in real time, and that's what we'll talk through today. So let's start with just a quick review. What is Agent Home? And let's start with what was before. In the past, and really for many of us today, the dashboard is the home page. That's the default shown to agents when they log in. I refer to it, and a lot of customers have resonated with this, as the first page people skip on the way to views. And that's about as useful as the dashboard is for a lot of use cases. As you can see, it's really built primarily for email. It doesn't update in real time. It only shows tickets, and it doesn't even show all of them. I can't see my CC'd and my follows. And the data display is rather rigid. It's the same attributes for every ticket that you see. As we move forward with Zendesk and continue to try to meet your needs more effectively, we want to acknowledge some of the realities of the modern world, which includes support going beyond the ticket, right? Real-time conversations happen at a rapid pace, and we have more going on in Zendesk besides tickets. There's side conversations, there's custom objects that are happening, all kinds of creative workflows are being built, and we want to be able to serve those quickly and effectively in a focused way. Work happens in real time, and there's more multitasking than ever before, especially with the advent of messaging and the efficiency gains we see coming through the application of AI. And finally, we believe that finding work shouldn't be time consuming. I shouldn't have to do a lot of scrolling or clicking or cognitive processing over what to prioritize. I believe that a software should make it easy for me to do that with minimal cognitive load. And that's where Agent Home comes in. Uh, when we look at customers using Agent Home, what we hope to see is customers that are improving their first reply time with one look at all of their signed, CC'd, and follow tickets. We hope for agents to stay focused and therefore improve their solve ticket productivity, time to resolution by surfacing the work in an actionable list. And finally, with intelligent sorting, reduce that cognitive load so that I can better hit those service goals. And so we'll kind of jump into just a couple of the capabilities that Agent Home provides today. And this is important for, I think, a lot of us, as Agent Home will be rolling out this fall from late September through October to all accounts. And we want to make sure that you're equipped and able to understand what that means for your homepage. For a lot of customers, it's a low impact since it's a page I don't use frequently anyway. And we hope to see increased engagement here with these defaults that are provided. So first, Agent Home provides a recommended sort. This is an improvement over the dashboard in that it factors the SLA breach first and then works off of the most recent update. So if your tickets have an SLA, they'll be prioritized above all else based on the next SLA breach value. And we do see this increasing SLA adherence and making this a more useful space right out of the box. From a real-time perspective, Agent Home provides capabilities related to messaging, like grouping active messaging conversations at the top, typing indicators for messaging tickets, real-time updates, and real-time organization of these tickets in the list based on recent updates, and message previews. So this takes it a step beyond what's available in views and feels a lot more like a true messaging application, showing my open work as well as context around all aspects of the conversation. Next, outside of the main work list, Agent Home gives me quick access to my CC'd and followed tickets. This is a very common ask among customers. We're very excited to provide it. And that's much of what Agent Home is and does as of today. There's been a few recent updates since we shipped it in December. So last December, we launched Agent Home with these basic capabilities. And as we've listened to customer feedback, we focused on making it possible to upgrade from the dashboard to Agent Home with minimal friction. And the biggest use cases and needs that we heard were the ability to interact with the ticket statistics in a similar way to the dashboard. For example, on the legacy dashboard, I can click on the CSAT good, bad rated tickets, view my solved tickets, and see a filtered list of these. That is now possible from Agent Home as well. By clicking on any of the good or bad tickets here, you can actually be directed to a list of search results that let you dig deeper on what your service levels are. With Agent Home, we also have allowed you to expand use cases with complete channel support. We shipped Agent Home with support for messaging and web tickets so that these customers could take advantage of it right away. We didn't want to hold it back. And over the ensuing months, we have shipped support for talk tickets. And within the next several weeks, you'll see support for the remaining channels, which is chat and SMS support, as well as improvements to child ticket side conversations. I do see that that's one of the main problems from Efrat in the chat, and we do hope to solve that hopefully within the next couple of weeks, but certainly within the month. So in terms of what's next, where are we headed with Agent Home? The past several months have been focused on what you might call feature parity with the legacy dashboard to make moving to Agent Home easier. And with those being unlocked, we now feel it's the appropriate time to migrate customers to Agent Home so that going forward, we can ship new and improved capabilities. We'll start with real-time updates for non-messaging tickets. This includes tickets from the email channel, web, follow-up tickets to chat conversations. These will update without the need to refresh the page, just like messaging tickets do today. We hope to ship that this fall. Next, to make Agent Home more conversational and efficient, we will be shipping read and unread indicators for Agent Home to help agents distinguish between updates they've read and conversations where they still need to catch up. And that's what's definitively on the roadmap for Agent Home in the coming quarter. There's a couple of other fun surprises that we hope to be able to share with you very soon. But in terms of where Agent Home is headed, this is what I'd really love to share with you. Why are we making this change outside of making it real time? And from the long-term vision perspective, what we really hope to unlock for you is with this real-time work list, provide an enhanced multitasking view of the Agent Home work. As you can see, this is just a concept. This is not something that we will actually ship, but it does illustrate how this real-time work list can be arranged alongside of tickets that I'm working on and help me click between them a little bit easier than tabs do today, right? And that doesn't mean the tabs are going away. It doesn't mean that fundamental navigation structures of Zendesk are changing. But how can we make it easier to stay on top of messaging and prioritize these fast-paced updates that come with the introduction of AI and real-time conversations and more task types? We also hope to allow for more customization and components for the home. outside of just CSAT and open tickets assigned to groups? What if we could allow you to select a couple of additional components and arrange them as needed on the homepage? It would be fantastic to enable that. And there's early discovery around how we can even make certain reporting capabilities available there. We also are looking at additional filtering capabilities to make it easier to segment your work and attack it in an order that works for you, and richer interactions on items in the work list. For example, without even opening a ticket, um, can I reassign it? Can I solve it? Can I potentially do a quick reply, mark it as read or unread, etc.? And we'll be looking for feedback from you and hopefully doing some interviews with some or all of you around what quick actions will make you most successful. And that is where we'll pause for today. You've probably heard enough of me talking, and I would love to catch up in the chat and hear what y'all have to share.
Yeah, Zach, that was fantastic. Thank you so much. A couple of things you said really kind of like resonate with me personally, because it's very much my philosophy, especially around tools not adding to the cognitive burden, but actually like lessening it. I think tools should help you do your job, not make it difficult. And I feel like we oftentimes get stuck in the, well, just throw more technology at a problem until it overwhelms the issue itself. So that was really great to hear. Was also a Zendesk customer and then a Zendesk employee. And now I'm a Zendesk customer again, obviously. And I've worked with the agent dashboard, home dashboard for a decade. And I'm so glad that it's finally getting some love and attention. And I'm sure everyone else here also is feeling that. So to go through the questions we've got so far here, Stacy Wynn asked said that they're using Agent Home, but some agents are raising concerns with the loss of unassigned tickets in all the groups they are associated with. The open tickets present all assigned and unassigned, but it is an advanced search, so we cannot customize the columns like assignee. So I'm guessing, Stacy, there's a desire there to have some customization around what the views, not the views, but what is shown in Agent Home. Is that a correct inferment of that question? And feel free to come off of mute or type in the chat.
While we wait on Stacy, okay, perfect. So what I hear is I need to be able to see the assignee essentially from the search results. Currently the goal of this list is to show the unassigned tickets. It mirrors the search from the dashboard. So my understanding is that there wouldn't be, in terms of parity with the legacy dashboard, any loss of capability versus the dashboard in viewing the columns. There was an assignee value. The open ticket search should only resurface unassigned tickets. We are looking at more capabilities for that and the ability to potentially refine the way that that's viewed a little bit. And it's common to hear that we'd like to see more unassigned work or maybe prioritize through a shared inbox in some way. So Stacy, I'd be very open to hearing a little bit more. If you want to email me, my name is firstname.lastname@zendesk.com. And I would love to hear your team's use case and make sure that that's factored into the way we're thinking about the solution. In the meantime, we do recommend using views to fill up that gap potentially. And I'd love to hear if that is a hindrance for your business in some way. Okay, and I see that that's what you proposed to the team as well. Awesome.
Cool. Stacy, okay. I think you should definitely take Zach up on his offer to talk more about that, though, because I think that could help your team and a lot of other teams that are probably. We're never alone in these types of questions. I feel if one person asks, 1,000 people have the same question. So it's never a bad idea to get in front of the product team. Next question is from Efrat. So they don't use the Zendesk native CSAT, and they actually don't want to show the CSAT to agents and Agent Home. Is the option to customize that particular portion of Agent Home part of what you're talking about? Is like the potential future state, Zach, of like be able to kind of customize a few of the widgets and stuff like that, or take it even a step further in the other direction, opening up a similar like app framework to like what you have in tickets. So like, let's say Sweethawk could have their own little widget dashboard on the agent home. Is that something you're thinking about in that realm?
Let's definitely start with the former.
Yeah, much
The
easier.
ability to add or remove components as needed. The good news is we do try to make it somewhat responsive to your organization's need. So with Agent Home today, if you deactivate CSAT in your admin settings, the good and bad rated tickets won't actually appear in that widget. You'll just see a count of solved tickets. So it does take into account the configuration throughout the product to serve a view that makes sense to your organization. However, also recognize that it's not obvious from the way Agent Home is presented that it will morph itself to fit your organization in this way. And the spaces that Agent Home changes to adapt to your settings also aren't clear. So we do hope to unlock more explicit customization capabilities this year where you can just declare, I want to show or hide this or that widget. So great feedback. I'm glad for that. I'm happy to share we're looking into it.
That's fantastic news. It's always good when the answer back is we're already looking into, already thinking about it, and it's not even on the roadmap. Always prefer the first question.
In terms of a framework, I did hear you mention that, Nicholas.
Yeah.
Could we bring in more, customization, like the ability to build apps into it? We're always loving to hear, we always love to hear use cases about that. I wouldn't say that that's in the works yet, but we'd love to know what you would do if you could, so we can think about, where that fits.
Yeah, absolutely. I think from an enterprise perspective, it's always nice to have more tools in the toolbox than less, or more options in case we need it. Kind of spoke about this at the top of the hour. Zendesk is really good at 90% of use cases, 95% of use cases, but those last 5% where that custom code, custom development really comes in. And I can already think of a few really nice use cases on the Agent Home that could live right there. Even if it's something like quick links out to a different resource or different repository, search, whatever it might be, like truly being kind of the landing page of ticket information and resources. I could see that being really helpful as in the world of like trying to pivot, swivel chair and pivot less to different screens type thing. So cool. Next question we got in the chats from Jamie. Jamie made a couple of comments here. They said it would be nice to be able to filter out solved requests in the updates panel in the lower left, and or if the status was visible in the updates panel.
Heard. And yes, that updates panel could use a little love. We're really focused on the work list right now. Jamie, I'd love to know what you use the updates panel for, why you love it. And I think the most helpful thing would be to hear, how would it break your workflow if it was gone? That doesn't mean it's going away, but it does help us understand and articulate that value more clearly. Because yes, it could definitely use some more love, and that's one of many pieces of feedback we've received around it.
Oh yeah, I can absolutely enable your auto, Jamie. I'm sorry. Let's see here. If it'll let me here. No, I don't want to block you. Oh, I have to go to the user list. Hold on, please. I'll absolutely unmute you, Jamie. Give me 1 second here. I do not know why it's not letting us. There you go, Jamie. You should be able to speak now.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No, it's okay. No, I said no in the beginning, but I didn't know how to I don't know. Anyway, so in terms of that, at any given point, I have 300 requests. And we've got views and they show me my 300 requests, but I just like to do a quick, like once a day check with the updates panel to see if I missed anything, in the views. And so what would be nice is, because I have so many requests and some of them are similar, I'll start clicking through them and realize, oh, I've already read those. So maybe, you talked about the unread read notification. So maybe that would resolve the issue, but it just would be nice if there were either a toggle or something so I could go, yeah, Jamie, you've already looked at those. So does that help?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm looking forward to shipping the read and unread indicator, and I hope to hear that helps you. Jamie, which
Okay.
organization are you with?
I'm with Safeguard Global. So we have about 1,100 agents. Um, so, and I'm one of many
Awesome.
admins, but I'm the account owner for our account. So,
Wonderful.
okay.
Thank you for your feedback, and
Thank
the
you.
invite is open to you and everybody else on the email front. I'd love to just engage directly as well.
Happy to talk anytime.
I do see the
Perfect.
next question is there a limit to the number of tickets or the time frame of tickets which will appear on Agent Home? There is. Agent Home will display the 100 most recently updated tickets. The time frame is kind of a hard start date for each channel that we've enabled. So as time goes on, that time frame becomes less relevant. So any ticket that was updated since last November should appear in Agent Home if it's on the web or email channel. Tickets that have been updated since May should appear in Agent Home if they're in the talk channel. And I will have the date for the hard start date for ticket updates for chat and SMS tickets before we ship that capability this fall. So essentially, Agent Home actually reads ticket updates and then creates the ticket in that list. And that's why there's a hard start date. But if any ticket has been updated since that time frame by changing the status or the assignee, it should appear. So the time frame is a lot less relevant than the hard floor of 100 tickets. But I just heard Jamie say that you've got 300 requests at any given time, so we can definitely look into expanding that. That that's something that's always open to feedback.
I think that's good news, and I think if correct me if I'm wrong, Zach, that sounds pretty similar to like the closed ticket, like indexing thing we have in views already, right? Where it's like at a certain point, if it's been closed for like 30 days, I think it drops out of views. You have to go do like some more looking for it. So I think that's good to know, and having that documented somewhere, either in the release information or not, would be really, really great. Because I feel like a lot of people will have that same question of, why doesn't it go back for forever? So I think that's really, really good to know, especially for some people who don't necessarily work tickets every day, but have some old tickets that have been around for a while.
Absolutely. And I do see it here, like it seemed like some older tickets were missing. We're looking at ways to potentially mitigate that too, by bringing in some more. We love to hear that feedback. It's noted, and it's been a little bit more impactful than we expected, to be honest, to see old tickets being a part of the workflow.
That's good. Like I'm really glad that you're one, hearing new feedback, but also doubling down on feedback you've already heard about this type of thing. So that's great. Next question is from Emily. Emily says, with the dashboard, they could easily find tickets that were lost in the ether, something I'm sure we all have had to deal with before in the past. Essentially, tickets that didn't fit into a normal view. This will be beneficial as I make updates, and I can find the holes I have missed and correct those. The current Agent Home does not show these tickets, and I would love to know if is somewhere else perhaps I could utilize or find these lost tickets that can make any corrections necessary in a timely manner. Really good question. Zach, I'm curious. I have my own thoughts on this because I do my own thing around this, but I'm curious what your thoughts are in regards to this in Agent Home.
Yeah, it's a common question, right? How can I get this default view back of all tickets? And right now, the recommendation in our Help Center, there is a best practice or a recipe around creating some views to replicate the legacy dashboard, which you can do and then implement, and then you'll have essentially a couple of catch-all buckets that you can look into. I am looking for that article right now, so I can just paste it in the chat. But that's what we recommend. You can build a view to use it, or use a view that basically has very liberal filtering sets. But yeah, I'm very interested in what your approach is, Nicholas.
That's actually pretty much what I do right now. Is I have a view in each of my Zendesk instances that just shows me tickets that have been created that are unassigned to a group or to an assignee for that same exact reason. And I share that with my admin. So like, hey, if you Nothing should ever land in that view, but if there is something there, we spot fix it on the spot there, because of that exact reason. So because I feel like, especially at enterprise level, there's a million and one rules that route, move, and adjust tickets as needed, and sometimes they end up in the ether. I use that same turn of phrase, and it's not great. Though, Zach, that made me think of a separate question of, there's agent home. Is there ever a world where we might have different versions of the home screen based off of role? So maybe not necessarily agent, but team lead, manager, admin, etc. That some of this type of information might pop up. I know like the admin settings technically is like the agent or admin screen, right? It's kind of admin home, but an overview similar experience based off of role might actually be really helpful for different types of roles. So I'll throw that question at you, and then I'll look at the next one from chat.
There's all kinds of roles at Zendesk. With granular permissions, those are built because there's no single admin persona. Some admins are here to manage workflows, some are here to manage SLAs and agent activity, and they have a variety of business roles or titles in their organization. We hope to create that level of flexibility at some point, Nicholas. Explore is a great place to dashboard in that way right now when it comes to managing workflow. But we recognize there's gaps, and with any feedback around that, I can get you to the right person in the organization to share a little bit more and make sure that that's passed along. So I can't explicitly say yes or no, there's a plan on that right now, but I'm very interested in getting the feedback to the right person. But we do want to create more flexibility in Agent Home, and I could see it getting there at some point. I wouldn't hold my breath yet, given what I've shared in our current priorities.
I totally get that. I think the bigger priority is the largest bucket of users, which is the agents. I think selfishly, as a operations manager, it's like, how can I make my job a little bit easier too? But totally understand that I'm the lowest priority when it comes to like the Zendesk enhancement work. And honestly, that's what I would want, even if I'm being a little selfish in that.
We have entire teams focused on admin and views, experiences, etc. So you are a priority.
Just not necessarily the highest one, and that is okay. You guys have done a lot of really good work to make my life easier in the last year and a half, and I've really noticed it. So like Zendesk as a whole. So we can give the agents some love. They definitely need it too. Next question from chat's from William Reed. Similar use case actually to what we do at Pinterest. They actually have internal requested tickets as well. So being able to swap between your requested tickets and your assigned tickets would be really, really helpful. And I'm thinking about how you have a similar drop down in your user profile, like for CC'd and stuff like that. Bringing that forward, I think would be great.
Yeah, that's great feedback, William. We're very interested in understanding the criticality of that to a variety of workflows. We've started to hear it a little bit more frequently. So, I'd love to hear what your use case is, what the internal tickets are for, the impact to your business, etc. Feel free to pop in if you want on the audio, Nicholas. I don't know if you want to enable it, but
yep, I can unmute you as well, William, if you'd like to chat. Give me 1 second here. Let me find you in the list.
And while we wait just to circle back on the previous question of what do I do with tickets lost in the ether?
Yeah.
We are looking at use cases for tickets outside of what's assigned to me in Agent Home. We're very interested in fulfilling those use cases. Any solution we build will be squarely focused on the agent. How can I collaborate effectively in kind of a shared inbox setting or a shared workspace setting? Finding tickets lost in the ether will live squarely in the realm of views. Views is definitely something very workflow supervisor oriented. And that's where we see the line for Agent Home, right? It is squarely focused on productivity, execution, and views is still excellent and probably the best fit for analysis and configuration. So wanted to get that out there, but William, would love to hear a little bit more about the internal tickets.
Sure. So we We have various groups and departments across our entire company. So sometimes an agent will open a ticket for another department and they'll be the requester on that. Now, of course, they can see the requested tickets on their profile. We can create a view. We could have them get email notifications. Some agents are going to be more passive than others. So if it's all accessible from this one place where their other work is likely to be found, I think that could be useful.
Fantastic. It's definitely something that we're interested. Are you comfortable sharing some of the request types that I might create and assign to another group locally?
Well, we're basically a small cable company. So we have our customer service agents who take the majority of like the direct customer contacts, but then internally we might have like our level two technical support. We have dispatchers in the system. We have like our quality assurance folks, and we have supervisors. So if like a piece of work is created for them, it might be originally created with the agent as a requester rather than just directly linking it to the customer because some of these departments aren't really customer facing.
Got it. That makes a lot of sense. Thanks for sharing that. William, I'd like to ask, have you used or considered using side conversations as part of that workflow?
Yes, it's a very long explanation. I don't want to get into right now, but I mean, I've played with it, yes, but we haven't utilized it to the full extent. There's I also wish we had some more control over some of that stuff that appears on those child tickets as well.
Got it. We won't belabor the point today then. If you may, if you're open to it, you may hear from me about that a little bit, just to understand a little bit further. But thank you for sharing.
It's funny, Zach, William, actually, that use case, William, I have a very similar thing where sometimes agents are requesters on either escalations or we actually do things like approvals for legal, Zach, where we'll send an approval over where the agent is the requester on like, hey, I need sign off on being able to do this type of thing because our legal teams work in Zendesk as well. So I can see, similar to what you see with group-based SLAs, like that kind of that similar workflow mindset of like routing tickets to internal teams where, yeah, the requester is an internal user, either back of house systems admins or approval or approvers. We do use side conversations for some of those. We do use like either tickets or like standard requests for some of that stuff, or something even more silly. If you work in IT and you need to request a peripheral, right? That is a different team, but you're still the requester, but everyone works out of the same Zendesk instance. So you are now also a requester in the same sense. So it could actually be a very employee focused request, but you have privileged access to the system. So, which could be useful to help track and follow along to those types of things. So I see a number of use cases there.
There's a lot more to uncover there from a process perspective.
Oh, yes.
However, I'll say that I think, have developed a pretty good understanding of that at this time, and hope to is well received, and hope to be able to share more about that soon.
That's great.
It's not my product space necessarily.
That's fair. I totally get that. Melanie Jackson asked, does the auto refresh also apply to changes done by an admin, like adding a new macro or just in the tickets?
It's just the tickets in the work list, so that when any customer emails back or a new ticket is assigned to me, it shows up without me having to refresh. Macros will still require page refresh to refetch the list and things like that.
Oh, hey, Dan. Nice to see you as always. Let's see. Cool. So I think that's the end of the questions in the chat. Feel free, everyone, to continue to add questions. We got about 20-ish minutes left. But I'll throw a couple questions at you, Zach, in the meantime while we wait for more in the chat. you kind of touched on this a little bit, but I'd love to hear more about your vision of how Agent Home and views, like you said there was that line already, right? But like, how do you just envision like the day in the life of an agent being with Agent Home compared to like what it currently is with views, going to the views, clicking into them, doing tickets? Like, what is your dream vision of a day in the life of an agent?
I can share my dream vision with a caveat that this is not a roadmap. So I'll be really
Yes.
clear about the distinction between these. But I do see Agent Home as the space where I, as an agent, can find any work that's relevant to me. And in what I suppose to be an ideal world, omnichannel routing prioritizes and routes work to me as needed. But we recognize that many, if not most customers, don't use omnichannel routing and are still pulling work out of a shared inbox. We use views to support that today. And I see a world where these boxes become available on Agent Home with relevant and rich interaction data, and where agents don't have to switch between screens to do their work. One of the problems that we hear today, customers will ask in our community and elsewhere, can you pin a views list into a tab so I can easily go back to it? Can I make the views list sticky while I'm working so that I can see the views list and my open work? We'll see agents who open a view and they actually request a bulk open capability. So can I click the checkbox next to 6 or 7 tickets and then click open so they'll all open? And tabs is essentially being kind of turned into a work list spread across the top of the page. I would love to see Agent Home provide a solution where all of that work is prioritized for me, sliced and diced by the appropriate business attributes, whether it's the product type or the workflow type, and it's readily available for me to multitask and switch between work without having to screen flip between views and a ticket or Agent Home and a ticket. And where I can even do quick actions on this from my work list without having to enter the ticket as needed. So that's where I see it. Views, I see as a place where, there's not as many limitations in terms of how deep I can search, right? Views goes all the way back to infinity almost. I think it's like 120 days from the date that a ticket is archived. There's a lot more analytic slice and dicing capabilities in views, and it will remain that way. And it's fantastic for team leads and supervisors watching over a large queue, doing analytics on issues that are happening in the contact center. But agents get a really focused execution space that minimizes screen switching and enhances productivity. That's the direction I see it going.
I think that's fantastic. And I think that's probably a very shared vision, because it's one I share, right? I definitely see a world where, and I guess just for my personal standpoint, we're adopting omnichannel routing and for all of our teams before the end of this year, with the intent of getting our agents, BPO and FT agents, out of views. Like, we want the work to be prioritized and handed to them, and take that, again, that cognitive burden of having to go find and figure out what work is done, to just like, cool, this is the work for the day. Here's your work list, go through it, do the stuff. And it takes the decision point of like, oh, this is just the work I'm doing. I don't need to like go and find that work. And really leaving the views more on the systems admins and the team leads to like spot check, trend, do all that type of stuff. So I think in a not so distant future, that's where we're going to be at. And I feel like that's the better experience for the agent and the better experience for the requesters as well. So it's really good to hear that vision of like, and like what the core problem you're trying to solve is. That makes me happy, and it aligns to my vision as well, like what I want to do for our agents. So that's fantastic. On that note, I have another question for you, Zach, because no one else asked questions and I just have a million of them because I always have questions. What are you most excited about as far as like either stuff you've delivered or stuff you have slotted to deliver before end of the year? What's like the most exciting feature or that you've like been like, yeah, I finally fixed that problem that I had when I was an agent, and I'm fixing it now as a product manager?
I think about the problems that I think we're going to solve next year, and it makes the problems I've solved this year seem small in comparison. But when I think back over the course of this year, as a CSM, so I spent a year at Zendesk actually as an account manager or customer success manager, helping 40 of our customers make Zendesk work even better for them. And the ones who were migrating to messaging, Agent Workspace worked really well for them when working on a ticket, right? I can flip between channels easily. I can message in real time now. For those of you who are newer to Zendesk since 2020, there was a time when chat was a totally separate app from Zendesk support. I would go between tabs to chat and then email to follow up with a customer. That in itself was a quantum leap. But managing my messaging conversations for me as a CSM, even after introducing Agent Workspace, didn't really make sense. If I had a tab open, that's great. I can see real-time updates. I can see if the conversation is active or not. But if I want to follow up or see a bigger list of my messaging convos, or maybe I accidentally close a tab, I don't have a space in views to do that. And so messaging didn't really work well for work management at Zendesk. With Agent Home, it does, and that's exciting. It's real time. I have previews of the messaging conversation. I can see the status indicator. It's sorted intuitively. And with read and unread indicators, even hearing the feedback from today, like it helps me make sure I just didn't miss an update. Sometimes I just need to be aware and informed, might not even need to take an action. And that's where read and unread indicators come in. So I'm excited about the way the real-time capabilities, integrating all of the data streams across various channels, and read and unread indicators make it easier to stay on top of updates, and make me feel more informed about the conversations I'm having with customers.
That's fantastic. Super excited for all of those things. Next question, because again, no one else is asking questions, so I'm going to keep asking them of you. You just kind of went into like what you're most excited about. I'm curious what's been a really big lesson that you've learned from customers through these types of customer stories and your engagement as a product manager or as a CSM. Like, what's been a really big lesson you've learned that's helped influence these design choices from your customers?
And if you followed the journey of product updates for Agent Home, I think it had far fewer capabilities when we shipped it than it does today, and it's going to have many more capabilities next year, by the end of next year. We definitely started with what I would say is our best stab at a one-size-fits-all approach to work management on a dashboard adjacent type of thing. I mean, we had a dashboard before that nobody could customize, and it didn't break anything. So I thought, let's do our best to iterate towards customization. And we find that even after shipping this, customization is just a massive priority. And it's something that I know as a former customer, and as a former CSM, like there's no one size fits all approach to business. But even taking what I assume to be a generic use case, just managing work assigned to me, surfaced an incredible amount of complexity. And I think a lot of product managers and designers take this journey as they kind of transform the way a UI is thought about within an existing piece of business software. So that's a big learning, and that's definitely a big focus for us in the coming year.
I think that's a great learning. And I also like that, like your best shot, I think, like at a one size fits all solution actually hit the mark really, really good. And I think it's this last 20% that you're kind of iterating on is like the detail work, right? But I think just in general, given to what it was to where you're going, where it is now, has been fantastic. Like I'm excited to roll it out. I've made the announcements internally here of like, hey, this is coming and it's going to change how your teams do work, right? Like it's going to be an optional thing for you to adopt. I'm actually planning to do enablement to drive people towards Agent Home as a core part of their workflow internally, because I think there's going to be a huge benefit to it. And there's more improvements that are to be coming to that'll be much better for an individual agent's workflow than a view would be, right? So I'm really excited for that. Everyone's so quiet and not asking questions. So I'm just going to keep asking my list, or unless you have any.
Well, I'd love to flip it around, Nicholas. I'm humbled and I'm thrilled, and in many ways relieved to hear. Right, I think every product manager, they probably won't admit this, every product manager is relieved by good feedback, but very excited by it as well. One of the things I live by, and I want to open this up to the group actually, but one of the adages that I live by is it's better for a friend to slap you on the face than like an enemy to kiss you on the cheek, right? We prefer like expressions of things that are good, but from people who we know and trust, we want to hear the constructive feedback and criticism. And so I'd love to hear, what is the most painful part of Zendesk for you today? I'm sure every product manager asks you this on these calls. You can focus it on Agent Home. You can focus it on messaging or work management. But what's top of mind to you? Feel free to drop it in the chat. Ask if you can come into audio. I'd love to open up that conversation. And Nicholas, same to you. I'm thrilled to know how much you love Agent Home. I'd love to know, hey, what really just isn't working for you as well.
Dan beat me to the last mile problem because I stole that. Dan and I used to work together many a year ago, and I stole that from him, and I will continue to use that to this day of last mile problems, last mile issues. I think my biggest challenge, while everyone else is asking their questions, with Zendesk is I feel like I stub my toe every once in a while, where I'm like, oh, why is this not a thing? For example, I'll give you an example. Omnichannel routing is fantastic, but from our discovery, it really only works great on ticket creation. But what if I want to rerun a ticket through the routing engine because stuff has changed, right? In my mind, it's like, oh, that'd be an easy, like that should just be a trigger, like just kick it back to the thing, but it's not there. Because like all these features, Agent Home is another great example. I think adoption is going to be big for the companies, and then once we get using it, I'm going to pick out a couple of things of like, oh, well, my agents still have to go to views for this, or oh, they have to go to a different tab for this thing, or like those types of things where it's like it's almost there, and it's not any one particular thing in Zendesk that like fails to do anything, because everything in Zendesk kind of does the fundamental expectation I have for it, which is why I love Zendesk so much. But it's when I get to like the limits of niche or nuanced support process or support needs, it's like, well, damn, I don't really have an option to do that unless I get creative. And I don't always want to get creative because creativity isn't always scalable, right? So even to the point you made earlier about like, oh, maybe customizing this homepage, something as simple as, for me, being able to have a quick link directory on the sidebar without having to go into a ticket would actually be phenomenal. Because sometimes the agent just needs to go pull up XYZ internal tool. It's just a URL link, but a button there would make it so much easier than having to like write a custom app or something to like do that. Right. So that's kind of where my brain's at, of like Zendesk makes everything for the most part super, super easy. But there is these nuanced moments where I'm like, well, damn it. It's just like, now I have to add extra brain cycle, whatever, to like bridge a gap. And again, maybe that's very enterprise. I'm willing to bet that's not something that happens a lot in smaller and mid-market businesses, where they do have very robust, very refined, organization-wide business processes. But for the enterprise companies, I'm sure that's not an uncommon feedback piece. Emily, Dan have both given very good feedback pieces. Zac, Emily's first one is the lack of solid live reporting, and I think we all feel this one, particularly when it comes to voice. One of the big pain points is not being able to see which IVR option was selected for the waiting calls. Do I need French, Spanish? Do I need an assembly expert on the phone? Do I need to pull in and be able to get the calls answered in a timely manner. Really just the lack of a live and customizable dashboarding for aspects of the platform.
Yeah, that is well heard. And I actually, because of our aspirations to make reporting extensible on Agent Home, work pretty closely with the product team in that area as well. Emily, be sure to pass that along. We care a lot about voice, and we want to make it easier to manage. So thank you for sharing that.
Dan's comment's actually one that I've heard quite a few times as well, around like originating as a message, but then it gets escalated and has to be handled in a different manner through a different style or channel. Like that is something I've heard quite a few times actually, about that disconnect there, because it's kind of, well, not every team communicates in the same way, right?
Yeah, what I hear you saying, Dan, is it would be nice if this worked a lot like chat, where once it's over, and it flips to email. I can just send it to my escalated team and not overwhelm this business ops team with a bunch of chats that are ongoing. If that is the case, I think you'll be happy pretty soon. These aren't my product areas, so I kind of hesitate to commit to timelines and specific solutions, but we are well aware of that, and I'm aware of work that's ongoing around it to make that process easier to manage, basically ending a chat or a messaging conversation so you can escalate it and manage the business appropriately.
Definitely understand you not being able to commit to other product managers areas, but I do still appreciate the feedback on that, Zach, because obviously you probably have a much deeper insight to what the broader product team is working on than we do. So appreciate that, even without specifics.
It's a large organization, Nicholas. You'd be surprised how often I even need to go and ask people what's going on sometimes, but it's a lot of fun.
It's grown a lot. It's gotten massive. Even since I was there, the product team was already big when I was there, and I think it's probably tripled in size since then. So, which is great. I'm
going to fast forward just a little bit, because Emily, I see that you're aware that it's on the roadmap for connecting OCR and workforce management. Thanks for mentioning that. And then Dan, thank you for sharing about the need to bring your own AI provider. We know that some customers want that. I'm not sure the status of that, but I am aware that, maybe I want to use Bedrock, maybe I want to use Anthropic, how can you help me do that? I don't have an answer for you today, but it's heard, and I'll pass it to the ML team. I'm really interested in Michael's question. I don't understand it, and I'd love to expound on that a little bit more.
And Michael, if you want, I can make it so you can talk. So give me a second here. Feel free to come off mute if you want to explain more, Mike.
Yeah, sure. I would love to. So I came from a previous product where, on Agent Workspace and even the customer profile, I could hide and remove fields with a series of rules based on values of those fields. I can put them wherever I wanted to on the workspace. I wasn't sort of locked into this form or column on the left where my agents have to do a lot of scrolling. So I really feel confined and constricted to the agent workspace. I had really high hopes for contextual workspaces, but they really just don't get down to the field level. They're much higher level than what I was hoping for.
Michael, I'd recommend looking into
I have
conditional ticket fields.
Yeah, I use the conditional ticket fields. I even wanted to mention I use the ticket field manager app. But wow. You put one space in the wrong area and you break all of your rules. So it's a little flimsy.
Okay, thanks for sharing that. I will pass that to the ticketing team as well. And I hope that everybody's able to use flexible layouts to get the ticket fields where they want them to be and put their apps where they want them to be. That's one of the coolest things about Agent Workspace. This is really fantastic. I see the chat really popping off now.
Mm-hmm.
This is my favorite thing. I feel like This is bread and butter for me. So thank you for sharing this. The internal note app, I am working with the Convolog team right now. I'll be able to share that with them. I know we have draft mode. It's not the same as the internal note app because there's times when I want to submit an internal note while I'm composing a public reply. And yeah. Oh, interesting, Jamie. Thank you for sharing this. I'd love to have internal notes that are not sent to followers. That is definitely something we should talk more about. There's a lot of use cases for private groups and privacy, things like that. Very
Yeah, ours
interesting.
isn't so much the privacy. Mine is there's things that I want to go out to the internal notes, and there's some that I want to use like a post-it note. Like they're just notes for myself. So I just and maybe I think there's actually add-on apps that we could do something like that, but I don't want to buy another app for as much as we spend on Zendesk. So I just would like a different type of internal note that really is just me jotting down my own notes.
Oh, like a private note
Like a
almost, or
personal
private
note.
Yeah.
summary for
Or
me.
personal. That's a
Yeah.
great, Nicholas, a personal note.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I could see a lot of use for that. Just like, where was I at in this ticket, and leave yourself a note on like a Friday afternoon type thing. I think would actually be super helpful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I wanted to ask, because someone was talking about conditional fields. I know there's conditional fields and we use them heavily on ticket forms, but there's no conditional fields on the user profile, is there? Or have I
Not that I'm
missed
aware
something?
of.
Yeah, because
Not
we
that I'm
need
aware
that
of.
desperately.
There isn't. Dan did mention that they use a custom app to
Yeah.
do conditional fields on the
Yeah,
user
we've looked at that.
profile, which
Mhm.
is, again, everything is possible with code and resourcing, but obviously out of the box feature parity would be really great. Emily, this will probably be the last question or last comment we'll probably have time for today because we're coming up on time, but the storage limit and lack of capability around intelligently scheduled deletion of tickets or files, probably more around like that data retention policy, Emily. I would love to have more options for that built natively into Zendesk. I have my own custom code that runs on ticket deletion to meet our internal kind of retention policies, but I believe that was rolled out recently for users, wasn't it, Zach?
Yeah, we're continually iterating on data deletion policies and increasing capabilities for those. I just posted an announcement that I now realize is a little bit older than I expected. And we've done a couple of releases around data deletion and automation since then as well. There's some capabilities. I'm not aware of the plan level restrictions offhand. But Emily, it's also something that we want to continue expanding on. So thanks for sharing that. It is an area of focus, be assured.
I think as GDPR and CDPA and all those types of regulations get more and more prevalent, it's just the technology catching up with the mandates around those types of things. So I fully expect that to be more options and more granularity on that in the future because we're already seeing it right now. So we are at time. And I'm going to be respectful of everyone else's time, and I've got more meetings to run today. But Zach, thank you so much for coming and spending an hour with all of us. This was fantastic. Everyone, if you have additional questions for Zach offered up, feel free to email him. I believe it was zac.garcia@zendesk.com. And if you have any question or feedback for myself or Tiff on the user group side, feel free to reach out to us via the user group channel. And we will see you all next month, and we'll make announcements for who will be attending and joining us next month very soon. But I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your week and a great rest of the day itself.